What up, Pittsburgh Steel fans? Matty P, Shannon White, another episode of the Steelers Global Perspective. Shannon White, my good friend, how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Another beautiful day here in sunny West Virginia. So, we was already talking a little bit before the show, and I'm ready to talk about some Steeler football.
That's it. Let's crack into it. Now, before we get into the topic of this segment of Steelers Global Perspective, did you see the Steelers gave Justin Fields the number 5 jersey, not the number 1 jersey? Did you have any thoughts or feelings on this? Like, I mean, it's not a surprise. We've seen them not give the number 1 jersey to people, but like, should they have just given it to him? Is this harking back to Gary Anderson thing? Like, I don't know. Does it even matter? Does it even matter in the great scheme of things?
I think it only matters if it matters to the player. And I think I see it two different ways. To me, obviously, Fields didn't put up much of a fight wanting the number 1 because I believe they would have given it to him. So he might look at it as a new opportunity, a chance to start over anew.
Yeah.
Because that's what being in Pittsburgh, that's how he should look at it. That's how I'm looking at it. I'm not going to judge him by what happened in Chicago. He's in a new situation, new environment, new culture. I believe that he has all the talent in the world to be successful. And now he's finally going to get an opportunity to at least start out training camp as the backup. He's always been the main dude. So now, he gets that opportunity. And so I think that he should look at the number 5 as a new number for a new start in the NFL.
I also think it's quite funny because there are a lot of clips. You saw when he was announced, a lot of people clipped his head onto Josh Jobs' outfit. I almost did that as well.
Yeah.
So I just think it's kind of funny to end up with 5 anyway. But look, apart from that, that's one free agent signing the Steelers have brought in this offseason. They brought in a number of guys this week. I think there's been a lot of chat about Cordarrelle Patterson, and we had a video on the channel about that, and I think that's kind of been talked to death. But the Steelers also
acquired. Want my opinion?
Yeah, give me your opinion.
I can give you a quick one.
Yeah, I love it.
2 years ago, I wrote an article at my old stomping grounds that I thought he would be a great addition because the Steelers needed depth at wide receiver, running back, and kick returner. Well, guess what? They still do. So they finally get him. And I will say this. He's not what he once was, but with the new rules, I think he's going to be very effective as that kick returner. I think he could give them somebody who could really get outside on outside zone runs out of the backfield, can catch the ball out of the backfield or out wide. And he's a great human being. If you don't believe me, just watch some YouTube video.
No, I love him. I think he's
great. He's a guy that his teammates love, but he has reached out and did things for fans. Just, spur of the moment stuff that I really admire. So I think you're getting a really good leader and a good positive influence for the wide receiver room and the running back room, which the running backs don't need as much, but the wide receivers definitely did. So the Steelers have addressed that wide receiver depth chart, and I'm excited about Patterson. I really am.
Yeah, me too. I herald all of that. I appreciate all that. I think people are sleeping on how much wide receiver, and I say wide receiver when we think about the way that Arthur Smith uses wide receiver and sweeps and short passing game and screens. I mean, people can use the word Swiss Army knife gadget guy. I almost think he's a bit more like Inspector Gadget with him because he can go this or go that. I don't know. I just think
and a freak athlete.
That's what I mean. And veteran. I agree with you, veteran. I think there's no downside to it. I haven't seen the full terms of the contract yet. I don't know if that's fully come out yet.
Just 2 years, 6.
No, I saw that, but I didn't know whether how easy they can get out of it.
Well, everything else they've done, if it's somebody of that age, I figure it's going to be front loaded. And that way they can get out of it next year if they need to. But I thought it was a very smart move. There's going to be a lot of 12 personnel this year.
Oh yeah.
You know, and you can put him in that 12 personnel. So I just think that it was a smart pickup. You know, Van Jefferson, a guy that has sneaky speed. I think
I'm a big Van Jefferson
4.39
guy.
or something when he
Yep.
was drafted.
Yep.
And you know, he's a quality player, not great, not a star, but depth. Quez Watkins, again, bigger than Calvin Austin, almost as fast. You know, there's going to be some
Well, I
guys
wanted to
that
talk
make that
about
wide
him.
receiver room.
Yeah, I want to talk about Chris Watkins as the next bloke. I know he destroyed the Steelers, and you would have very rightly pointed that out when other people were not pointing that out. You know, with your great memory. I don't think he's ever turned out to be anything. As you know, I'm a big draft dudes, you know, listener. They they were so high on him for so long, and they've completely flipped the other way. They can't say a good thing about him. And like they talked about him going to free agency as the one a wide receiver that they felt like someone was going to waste money on. I don't think the Steelers have obviously signed him to very much. It's vet minimum. I think I'm all for bringing people in right now that Fields and Wilson can throw to. I don't see this guy making the depth chart. Maybe he sits on the practice squad. Like I don't hate the move because you need camp bodies, you need practice squad guys. Yeah. But I don't expect this guy to be on the roster. I don't expect him to do anything. It's a problem if he challenges anyone. And you know, to me, he's like the mediocre measuring stick. So if a wide receiver can't do better than him in camp, we don't want them on the Steelers roster, full stop. That's what I'm treating him as, the mediocre measuring stick.
If you look at it last year, after Pickens and Deontay Johnson, I thought the Steelers wide receivers were incredibly mediocre. I mean, nobody offered anything. Calvin Austin was still learning. And in that offense,
and he was
so limited in that offense. I mean, everybody was. But then you had Boykins that, you know, they just wouldn't throw to him. And when he did, it wasn't like he did anything with it. I think they've already upgraded their depth. And if they get a top draft pick, I would say that they've really revamped and improved the wide receiver room.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think Austin worked into an OC that famously said that he didn't know how to use him.
Didn't even know how to use it.
That's a fail. The next two guys, I want to talk more about Dean Lowry, but first we'll get to Brandon or Kyle Allen. Sorry. Thoughts around that? I mean, I don't hate it. I like the idea of bringing another veteran. I still think if a quarterback fell really late in the draft for whatever reason, maybe, but it's unlikely. Same with the UDFA. I'd love them to get a guy like Sam Hartman out of Notre Dame who was at Wake Forest as UDFA and compete with a guy like Allen. I don't think that's an issue. I mean, again, do you have thoughts on Allen, you know, and what he means for this team, or does it tell us anything about how they're viewing things? I mean, it's a non-competition between 2 and 3 at this point, right? So,
well, the Steelers are always going to have 4 quarterbacks at camp. They've always done that, and you know, so this year you got Wilson as the initial starter, and then Fields, who I view as the future. Then you have Kyle Allen. Now, Kyle Allen is a veteran who doesn't need a lot of reps. He can come in and just execute the offense, Arthur Smith's offense. He's not going to maybe win you a game, and he ain't going to probably lose you a game because he's very experienced. He's very smart.
So you're saying that he's Kenny Pickett? Are you saying he's a mature Kenny Pickett?
In a lot of ways. He's not as talented as Pickett, but I think that he has that same mindset. So I think that that's one reason they were attracted to him. You bring him in, he's your emergency 3. They're going to bring in if a guy like Sam Hartman, you know, he probably won't go to the 6th or 7th round. If he was,
I think there's a chance he goes undrafted. To be honest,
well, that's what I'm saying. If that was to happen, the Steelers should definitely look at him because
I'm such a Sam Hartman guy. Yeah,
I am too. I liked him in Wake Forest.
No, that's what I'm saying. So did I. And
yes,
I
I'm
actually
not a
think he
Notre
made
Dame fan, but I did like him at Wake Forest.
And I think he made the wrong move. I don't think he realized the lack of talent that was sitting there on the offensive side at Notre Dame. And I don't think I don't know if that worked out for him the way. There were other colleges that wanted him. Can't remember off the top of my head. And I think he made an unlucky move there, but I
am a fan. And I think he's a guy, in my opinion, a lot like a Brock Purdy. The product is more than everything you see, the way he tests. He plays better than he tests. Let's put it
but
that way.
But he had a really good 40. He had a good decent 40-yard dash, and I also think his production in college said like I think he did more in college with less than what Purdy did.
It's true. He really had a solid college career, and didn't have a lot of supporting cast. So I agree with you. I'd like to see him be that fourth guy, and depending on what happens, he might even could knock Kyle Allen out to be that third quarterback. But again, so I'm happy right now with where the quarterback room is, and if they could get a guy like that, I would be ecstatic about where the quarterback room is.
yeah, that's it. All right, well, let's move on to Dean Lowry. I'm going to give you my quick assessment. I know you've done a bit more study about him than what I have. And so my assessment is that this is like a Chris Wormley pickup with a lot of upside, in that you've got an older guy, injured last year for a lot of the year, didn't play. Definitely, he only played 9 games, started in 4. The guy comes in the Steelers with 15 and a half sacks. The guy comes into the Steelers with 23 tackles for a loss, 34 quarterback hits. His AV, for people out there that like Pro Football Reference, is pretty decent for with a 43. It's not like earth shattering. It's not going to get him into the Hall of Fame, but for a 4th round pick, he's actually had a pretty decent career. Played in Green Bay, where he's played at the defensive end position. Probably, I'm interested to see what he's actually weighed in at for the Steelers, but he's a 6'6" guy. He's got length. We know the Steelers like length. We know like Loudermilk's height. We know a few other guys have tried to bring him with the height as well. Considering we had Dan McCullers on this roster for years and he did absolutely nothing, I just think this guy's like a Wormley 2.0 with upside. And I kind of like it. He comes off a down year, fine. He comes off the year before, he only had half a sack. But again, he only played in 12 games. The year before, when Green Bay went to the playoffs, when Green Bay the year before, he played 17 games, started 17 games, had 5 sacks. I mean, to get this sort of guy on the cheap, I mean, I kind of like this move more than I do re-signing Montravius Adams, to be honest.
Oh, I do. Here's the thing. To me, he is very stable. He's solid stability. He is a guy, I would compare him to a Chris Hoke in his role and his value, in that last year I said I was very high on the Armand Watts signing.
Yeah.
And everybody said, oh, Watts ain't nothing. He's an afterthought. I said, no, Watts is a quality professional. Professional. Yep. He doesn't have to, if he plays 20 snaps one game and 10 snaps the next, it doesn't faze him. You tell him when to go in, he goes in, he does his job. That's a professional. He's always ready. And it's the same way with Leary. And I just believe that he's, I think his weight has always been between 295 and 305. He is right in that range that the Steelers like for their defensive ends. He could spell Cam Hayward. He could spell Ogunjobi, just like Watts did last year. I didn't want to lose Watts, but they got Leary, got him cheaper. And he's a pro's pro. He's a proven veteran. And you need those guys.
Yeah.
Especially because we've got Benton, and I hope they're going to get another defensive lineman in this draft. And there's a guy that he could be a great mentor, because he's seen multiple schemes. He's been asked to do multiple things, and he just does his job. I like those guys.
I mean, I don't want to precede draft content that we've got to come over the next few weeks, but I see this move as cementing the fact they're not going to take a defensive end in this draft. They're going to take a defensive tackle, and they're looking at what they do with Benton slightly out, a bit like moving him a little bit more outside. I mean, we've talked a lot about Michael Hall Jr. I think that the kid out of Clemson with the long last name starting with O is. I can say, but I'm having a mental blank on his name. On how to say it right now. It's been all in
It's Russ something, ain't it? I just call him Russ O.
Yeah. That's. I know how to say it when I read it, but I don't have it in front of me, so I don't want to mark it up. But I think he's less likely of a candidate. There are a few other key tackles.
He's probably going to go second round.
Yeah, right.
They're not going to go that early, I don't think.
And to me, you sign this guy. I was thinking about it, and you think about how much money they've got invested at defensive tackle. I know they want to get people learning under Cam, but they've got that with Benton. And if they if they deal with Cam properly this year, they can get another year out of Cam. If they manage his snaps. I've been saying management of snaps is a huge thing with 17 games, and everyone always laughs me out.
And with veterans, older veterans. Yes.
I also really like, again, I don't want to proceed too much draft content because I think, interior defensive line is something you and I probably want to talk a lot about over the next few weeks. But I really also like a guy like Gabe Hall out of Baylor in the 5th or 6th round. The length. I mean, I've been on Gabe Hall because it was talk that he would come out last year and he didn't. But there's the length of him, the power of him. He's a 3-4 linebacker. That's what I've talked about him on a few different shows we've done over the last few months on the channel. And the reason why he's got such a low grade is because he isn't a 4-3 player. He is a 3-4 guy. The college he went to, I didn't have the best couple of years, the last few years, but he actually tested quite well at the combine and went back onto some people's radar. Mm-hmm. But I guess my point is, you bring in a guy like Lowry, the impetus or the imperative to have to draft a high defensive lineman, and I know they're really high on guys like Michael Hall Jr. and a few other out of Ohio State and a few other blokes, but they're not in this position where I feel like they have to draft someone high. Like I did feel they had to draft Benton or Mazai Smith or a couple of those different guys when they drafted Benton. I do feel like they're in the position where they had to do that in that draft. They got it right with Benton, but I'm just glad when you get depth pieces like this, it gives you options. And this is how we've seen the Steelers do well historically, is when they fill the need through free agency and then they've got best player available comes into the mix in the draft. So,
don't forget that they not only did they get Montravius Adams, they re-signed him, but they brought back Fajoku.
True.
And obviously they seen him all last year, so they seen enough that they're like, we want to give him another shot. Because if you could get him in there, and because he's a run stuffer, just like Larry, he's a run specialist. Excuse me.
Yeah.
You get him in there with the new and improved inside linebacker group, they're looking a lot better.
Yeah, well, and Bernie, who comments on a lot of our videos, he'll be loving that you brought up Fehoko. He's a massive Fehoko fan. And I said this to him in the comments that, why? Because he said, why didn't they use him last year? I said, I had a feeling they brought him in and went, okay, cool. We know what you can do. You're a big body. You're a run stuffer. But we need you to work on X, Y, Z. And that's why they've kept him. And I think that's why they've brought him back, because I think that they've probably asked him to go and work on things. He's proven that, or proven an ability to develop into the system. But look, that's going to wrap up this segment of Steelers Global Perspective. We've got more content coming out over the weekend, so stay tuned for that. I'm Matty P with Shannon White. As always, go Steelers.